The gymnasium on Arkan Academy Prime shimmered under twin suns, a cathedral of glass and light floating above the amber clouds of a gas giant. Inside, hundreds of alien students stretched, hovered or adjusted their bio-armor, waiting for combat class to begin. They were the finest cadets in the intergalactic Peace Corps, each bred or engineered for war. Claws gleamed, wings fluttered, minds hummed with telepathic static. Then the doors opened, and a human walked in. Silence fell like a dropped moon. He was tall but unarmored, skin pale under the blue skylight, hair a tangle of gold, eyes calm, too calm. His name was written on the holo register, Elias Grant, transfer student, Origin Sol 3, Terra. Someone laughed, a ripple of alien amusement. Humans were a myth out here, a primitive species from a forgotten system on the edge of charted space. What was one doing at Arkan Prime, the academy that trained the galaxy's elite peace enforcers and killers? Nikolko instructor Vera, a towering Veshian with crystalline skin, tilted her horned head. Cadet Grant. You are far from your world, she said, her voice echoing softly. Yes, ma'am, Elias replied, steady but respectful. Your species has little reputation for combat prowess. That earned another wave of laughter. Elias didn't react. He simply looked around, at the obsidian-skinned Wraen warriors, the shimmering Myrians with psychic fields, the insectoid cliques whose limbs were sharper, then blades, and then back to Vera. I'm here to learn, he said, quietly. Training began. The class divided into sparring circles. Vera's tail cut the air. Non-lethal engagement protocols. Impress me, cadets. The aliens paired off, plasma lances flashing. Sparks crackled. The floor trembled. Elias waited. No one wanted to fight him, until a broad-shouldered Wraen, twice his height, stepped forward, sneering. Tiny human, your bones will break in seconds. Elias smiled faintly. Let's find out. Vera nodded for the match to begin. The Wraen charged, claws first, a blur of muscle and fury. The air hissed as Elias sidestepped, barely moving, calm as drifting smoke. The Wraen swung again, faster, harder. Elias weaved through the strikes, reading rhythm instead of strength, timing instead of power. Then he struck once. A precise, soft motion, the kind only someone who understood pressure points could deliver. The Wraen froze. His body locked mid-motion, eyes wide with disbelief. Then, thud, he collapsed like a tower of wet sand. The room gasped. Even Vera blinked. And that was saying something. Elias exhaled, lowering his stance, eyes tranquil. Next. Unkakin they came, one after another. A psychic Myrian tried to invade his mind. Elias thought of music. And the alien staggered, clutching her temples. A click warrior struck from 3 angles at once. Elias moved through them like a ghost. Each attack meeting empty space. A Galen beast shifter towered over him, roaring plasma. Elias ducked under the energy stream, touched one spot on its armored chest, and the creature's legs buckled. By the 5th match, silence had turned into awe. By the 10th, it was fear. Instructor Vera stopped the training. The air shimmered with her authority. Enough. She walked toward Elias, her crystalline body refracting light like a prism. Explain yourself, human. What are you? Elias met her gaze. Just a student from Earth. Earth? She echoed. That world was listed as pre-fusion. No known psionics, no neural bioarmor, no gene reinforcement. He nodded. That's true. Then how did you— Because, Elias said softly, humans train the hard way. We break, we heal. We break again until something inside refuses to stay down. The aliens watched, speechless. No aura, no implants, no genetic upgrades, just raw will and understanding of motion. A being who fought not because of what he was made from, but because of what he chose to become. Vera studied him for a long, silent moment. Then she whispered, perhaps the rumors were true. Elias frowned slightly. What rumors? That your species once destroyed a planet, not with weapons, but with resolve. A chill moved through the hall. He didn't answer. Instead, Elias looked out the glass wall at the swirling clouds of the gas giant below. His eyes were distant, haunted, as though he'd already seen a world die, and somehow lived to carry its memory. The bell rang, and class dismissed. But no one spoke as they filed out. Their minds burned with one thought. What kind of world made someone like him? And what would happen if that kind of determination ever met the horrors of galactic war? Because suddenly, a planet-killer student had walked into gym, and the galaxy had no idea what storm it had just invited in. Night fell on Arkan Prime like the slow closing of a great eye. The gas giant storms turned crimson below, their lightning reflecting against the Academy's silver towers. Most students were asleep, but Elias Grant was awake, standing alone on the training platform. The stars here were too many. Too sharp. Too foreign. He stood still, breathing in the thin, clean air. His muscles ached pleasantly from the day's duels, though none had truly tested him. Around him, the platform shimmered with holographic grids, a place where warriors practiced destroying illusions before they learned to destroy enemies. He didn't activate any simulation. He just watched the clouds. They reminded him of home. Back on Earth, before humanity joined the galactic map, Elias had been a disaster relief worker. He remembered the fires, the smell of melted cities, the sirens that had no end. When the asteroid came, they called it the Midnight Stone. It split Earth's skies like a wound. He had seen entire regions burn. He had seen people keep fighting, not because they thought they could win, but because someone had to keep holding the line. And so, even now, in this alien academy among species older and stronger, Elias felt no fear. He'd already seen the end of a world. Couldn't sleep? The voice startled him, soft, melodic, and slightly metallic. He turned. It was Lyra, a Mirian from the telepathic clans. Her skin shimmered with faint light like a living nebula. She walked toward him carefully, her long robe catching the starlight. "I don't sleep much," Elias said. She smiled faintly. "Humans, so strange. You fight like you've already accepted death." He shrugged. "Maybe that's how we survived long enough to get here." Lyra tilted her head, eyes glowing gently. "You know, most of the class thinks you're dangerous." "Do you?" "I think you're sad." Elias looked away, the memory of orange skies flickering in his mind. "Maybe." For a long moment, neither spoke. The hum of the station's generators filled the silence. Finally, Lyra asked, "Is it true that humans once destroyed a planet?" Elias hesitated. "That story's wrong." "Then tell me the right one." He took a slow breath. "We didn't destroy it. We sacrificed it." Lyra's eyes widened. He continued quietly, voice steady, almost gentle. "When the Midnight Stone came, we had two choices. Run them and lose everything, or use what little tech we had to pull it off course. It worked. The asteroid missed the major colonies, but the planet's orbit destabilized. Earth burned from within a year later." Lyra gasped softly. "You mean your own home?" He nodded. "Gone, but billions lived because of it. We traded our world for their tomorrow." Lyra stepped closer, the glow in her skin dimming. "That's not destruction. That's sacrifice beyond anything I've heard of." Elias smiled faintly, a small, tired thing. "That's what humans do. When there's no hope left, we make one anyway." The next morning, the academy buzzed with whispers. Rumors of Elias's performance had spread far beyond the gym. Some called him a genetic weapon. Others said Earth survivors had evolved into something else entirely. When he entered the mess hall, conversation stopped. He walked past rows of students who looked away, not out of contempt but caution. He was different. And difference, in the galaxy, was power wrapped in mystery. Instructor Vera summoned him after breakfast. Her crystal form reflected the violet sunlight spilling through her office window. "Cadet Grant," she began, "you've drawn attention from the council." Elias frowned. "Already? They see potential. But they also see danger. They want to test you further." He nodded. "When? Tomorrow. You'll join a live combat exercise, one off-world. Simulation?" "No," she said softly. "A frontier distress call. Pirate incursion near the Wraen belt, real lives. Real consequences." Elias felt a faint shiver, not of fear, but of purpose. "Then I'll be ready." Vera studied him closely. "Human, do you understand what you represent to them? To us?" He met her gaze, calm and unyielding. "Maybe not yet. But I know what I represent to myself. And that is?" He smiled. A quiet, steady smile that somehow carried the weight of collapsing stars. "Hope, the kind that doesn't quit." That night, Lyra found him again, this time in the launch bay, where training pods gleamed under blue light. You shouldn't go alone, she said softly. I won't, Elias replied. You're coming too, she blinked in surprise. You want me on your team? He nodded. You see things others don't, that's what we need out there. Lyra hesitated, then smiled. Then I'll be there. As she left, Elias looked out into the starfield. He could already sense the storm ahead. Not of wind or dust, but of fate itself. The galaxy didn't yet understand humans, but soon it would, and when it did, everything would change. The transport ship Aurora Lance sliced through the dark between stars, her hull gleaming like a blade in starlight. Inside, the cadets sat in rows, unarmored, nervous, silent. This was no longer a simulation. This was a live field deployment. They were headed to the Wraen Belt, a lawless cluster of mining colonies at the edge of Arkan space. The distress signal was short, garbled. Pirates, maybe slavers, maybe worse. Command wanted answers. And blood. At the back of the cabin sat Elias Grant, helmet in his lap, eyes calm but distant. Across from him, Lyra adjusted her visor, her glow faint under the dim red light. Around them, murmurs rippled among the alien cadets, the ones who'd seen Elias fight in the gym, now whispering about what he might do in war. The atmosphere vibrated with expectation and fear. Instructor Vera stood at the front, her crystalline armor refracting light across the compartment. Listen well. Cadets, she said, voice steady as thunder. Your mission is simple. Secure Outpost Row 7, extract survivors, eliminate hostiles. No heroics, no hesitation. Remember, Wayne, this is not a classroom. This is reality. Her gaze lingered on Elias. Especially you, human. You are not to act outside protocol. He nodded quietly. Understood. But in his chest, something uneasy stirred. A deep, human instinct that no alien doctrine could suppress. The Aurora Lance dropped out of warp with a soundless jolt. The view outside shifted. Stars bent, then straightened, revealing the Wraen Belt in all its fractured glory. Massive asteroids tumbled through black space, their surfaces dotted with broken mining rigs. Flames licked the void from one of the larger rocks. Row 7, the colony. Multiple life signs, reported the sensor officer. And heavy weapons fire. Deploy pods, Vera commanded. Metal doors opened. One by one, drop pods shot into the void. Streaks of fire plunging toward the burning station. Elias's heart thrummed in his chest as the pod sealed around him. Lyra sat beside him, fingers trembling slightly. First combat? He asked softly. She nodded. You? Elias gave a faint, almost sad smile. Not the first. Not the last. The pod shook violently. Atmosphere roared. Then impact. And the hatch exploded outward. Heat hit them like a wall. The outpost was a ruin of shattered corridors, flickering lights and screams echoing through the metal bones of the station. Elias moved first, calm amid chaos. His eyes scanned the field like a surgeon, assessing, calculating. Cover the civvies, he ordered, voice sharp but steady. The cadets obeyed instinctively. Even Vera, watching from the command link, felt a flicker of something rare. Leadership born from experience, not rank. Lyra's telepathic voice brushed against his thoughts. Elias. There are survivors pinned behind Bulkhead 17, but pirates closing fast. Then that's where we go. When they moved through twisted corridors, firelight flashing across steel, the air was thick with the smell of ozone and blood. They reached the bulkhead just as plasma bolts tore through the ceiling. Pirate troops, a half machine, half flesh, and poured through the breach, weapons raised. Lyra ducked behind cover, firing bursts of light from her psionic core. 2 enemies dropped. Elias didn't shoot, he ran straight at them. One alien pirate roared and swung a plasma axe. Elias caught his arm mid-swing, twisted and used the momentum to throw him into another. A third fired. Elias spun behind a pillar, timed the shots by sound, then leapt forward and drove a strike into the pirate's chest that sent his weapon clattering away. The aliens watching on the squad's feed went silent. No armor enhancements. No energy shielding. Just motion, perfect, precise, lethal. And then as the last pirate fell, Elias turned and face calm, hands steady. Clear. When they reached the trapped survivors, a handful of miners and children huddled under collapsed beams. Elias knelt beside them, voice soft but firm. You're safe now. Stay close to Lyra. One of the miners, trembling, pointed past the corridor. There's something deeper in the station. They said the pirates were here for it, a core, something ancient. Elias frowned. Ancient? The man nodded. They called it the Heart of Wraen. Vera's voice crackled through comms. Elias, hold position. Reinforcements inbound. Do not proceed further. But Elias stared down the dark passage where faint pulses of light flickered like a heartbeat. Lyra, he murmured. Do you feel that? She closed her eyes. Her psychic senses stretched out, then recoiled. It's alive, old angry. Elias's gut tightened. He'd felt something like that once. During the last days of Earth, when the asteroid broke apart and the sky turned to fire. That same quiet pressure, that whisper of the inevitable. Get the civilians out, he said. Lyra's eyes widened. Elias? He looked at her, not harshly, but with that same steady humanity that frightened and comforted her all at once. You said you'd follow me. Trust me now. And before she could stop him, Elias walked alone into the darkness. Vera shouted his name through the comms. The signal crackled. Static. In the command feed, his tracker flickered, then vanished. For a heartbeat, everyone on the Aurora Lance sat frozen. Then the outpost shook, violently, impossibly, as if something massive had just awakened deep below its surface. Lights went out. The belt trembled, and on every monitor a single message appeared in human script. 3 words written by Elias himself. Don't follow me. Darkness swallowed the corridor. Elias moved forward, each step measured, almost silent. The heat from the burning outpost behind him was fading, replaced by an eerie cold that seemed to seep into his bones. Every instinct told him the heart of Wraen was alive. Not alive like a plant or a beast, alive like a thought, an intelligence older than most of the galaxy. Lyra followed closely, her psychic senses stretched thin, straining to perceive the danger ahead. Elias, whatever this is, it's not natural. The pirates didn't know how to handle it. I feel it watching us. Elias didn't answer. He only walked, eyes fixed on the pulsating light ahead. It throbbed like a heartbeat, steady, insistent, impossible to ignore. They entered a chamber massive enough to rival a cathedral. Its walls were carved from black stone, alien runes etched deep, glowing faintly with energy. At the center floated a crystalline sphere, the heart itself. Pulses of violet light radiated outward, illuminating floating shards that hovered, spinning lazily in zero gravity. Lyra gasped. It's beautiful. Beautiful? Elias asked softly. No, it's dangerous. If it were alive, it would have already consumed everything in this station. The heart pulsed again. It seemed to resonate with him, a faint, almost imperceptible vibration that hummed through his chest. His vision blurred for a moment as memories surfaced. Earth burning, the midnight stone, screams, fire, dust, a planet sacrificed. And then he understood. This heart was more than a relic. It was a weapon, a living core designed to annihilate worlds if misused. And the pirates had been drawn to it, trying to wield its energy. Lyra floated closer, whispering, Elias, it's reacting to you. He nodded. I know. The chamber shuddered. The heart's glow intensified, casting jagged shadows across the walls. The pulsing light expanded, then contracted, almost like it was breathing. Elias felt a pull, a magnetic, mental tug at the very core of his being. It wants something, Lyra murmured, eyes wide with fear. Yes, Elias said. It wants a choice, and somehow it thinks I can make it. He stepped forward, unarmed, fearless. The aliens who had watched him in the gym would have called this madness. But Elias understood something they could not. True power was not about strength alone. It was about understanding responsibility, the courage to act when the universe offers no guidance. The heart flared violently, pushing a wave of energy outward. Elias staggered, then planted both feet, fists clenched, and spoke softly. I do not seek to destroy. I seek to protect. Let me prove it. Energy coalesced around him. The heart pulsed faster, reacting to his intent. Shadows from the chamber twisted, forming shapes like ancient guardians. Lyra reached out telepathically. It's testing you. You have to show it your will. Elias closed his eyes. Memories of fire, dust, and sacrifice flooded him. He felt the weight of a world in his hands, a responsibility older than any law, older than any alien creed. And he made a decision, not to wield it as a weapon, not to claim its power, but to guide it, to stabilize it, to prevent it from ever harming another world. He extended his hands toward the heart. Energy surged around him like lightning caught in slow motion. The chamber shook violently, debris floating like frozen rain. Shadows screamed, then dissipated. The violet glow softened, stabilizing, its pulsing slowing until it was steady, alive but dormant, at peace. Lyra gasped, eyes shimmering. You controlled it. Elias opened his eyes, exhaustion written across his face. Not me. We. I only chose the right thing when it mattered. And the station groaned as the remaining structural fires cooled. The civilians they had rescued earlier were safe, guided by Lyra's psychic shields. The pirates lay incapacitated, no longer a threat. Elias turned to Lyra. We need to leave before the rest of the station collapses. As they ascended through the debris-filled corridors, Lyra looked at him with awe. The council chambers of Archon Prime were a cathedral of authority, floating high above the planet in a ring of light and gravity stabilizers. Hundreds of delegates from every known system had gathered, their forms a riot of shapes, scales, and psychic energy. At the center, a massive orb of pure crystal hummed, the council's conscience and memory of every decision ever made. Elias Grant entered quietly, flanked by Instructor Vera and Lyra. Unlike the other cadets, he walked unarmored, hands relaxed at his sides. The room buzzed with whispers. The human who had tamed the heart of Wraen, the one who moved like a ghost and fought like a storm. Every head turned. Every mind instinctively measured him, not as a student but as a force. And the chair of the council, a being called Thyrex, extended a crystalline arm. Its voice was calm but heavy like gravity itself. Cadet Elias Grant, Thyrex intoned. The council has studied your performance in the Wraen belt. Your actions were unorthodox, unprecedented, and extremely dangerous. You acted without authorization. Elias met the chair's gaze steadily. I acted to protect lives. I prevented a disaster that could have destroyed the sector. Thyrex's multifaceted eyes blinked slowly. True, but the heart of Wraen is an ancient device. Many could have been killed if it had reacted differently to your humanity. Lyra whispered. They don't understand you, Elias. They see only danger, not intent. I understand, he replied softly, and I accept any consequences. But I did not act out of recklessness. I acted because I had to. The galaxy doesn't wait for permission when a world is burning. A ripple went through the council. Elder delegates murmured in unison, some offended, others intrigued. Thyrex's gaze hardened. The council offers you a challenge, a test, not of your skill but of your loyalty and judgment, a mission of diplomacy, of strategy, and of choice. You will be placed at the head of a combined force, alien and human, to resolve a crisis in the Loran sector. You will not be permitted to use overwhelming force. Your decisions will determine the survival of millions. Elias tilted his head. And if I fail? You fail, Thyrex said, voice colder than the void outside. And the council will consider your presence among us a liability. He had expected nothing less. Elias nodded once. I accept. Outside the chamber, Lyra exhaled. That was intense. Elias looked toward the city's glittering towers. It's never about the fight, Lyra. It's about responsibility. Today it was a battle. Tomorrow it will be choices. Hard ones, Lyra frowned. Choices that could kill people. Yes, Elias said, voice firm. But in those choices we show what humans can do. Not just survive, but preserve hope. Word of the council's decision spread like a nova. Aliens who had doubted humanity now whispered, watched, and speculated. Some feared him, some admired him, but none could ignore him. In the mess hall that evening, cadets approached cautiously. Many asked questions, others tried to test him in small sparring matches. Elias smiled faintly, answered calmly, and never refused anyone who sought guidance. Even among fear, he inspired respect. Even among alien pride, he inspired loyalty. Vera approached him as the stars began to blaze outside the academy windows. Human, the council does not make decisions lightly. You are now a symbol, a living example of what can happen when one refuses to surrender. Elias's gaze drifted to the horizon. Symbols are only as strong as the people who believe in them. I just act when I have to. And yet, Vera said, her voice softening, somehow you carry the weight of 100 worlds anyway. He allowed himself a small, rare smile. Maybe that's what makes us human. We break, we bleed, but when it matters, we don't quit. And that night, in the quiet of his quarters, Elias looked at the holomap of the Wraen sector. Political unrest, famine, and pirate factions dotted the charts. Entire worlds teetered on collapse. Lyra watched him, sensing his thoughts. Do you really think you can fix all of that? Elias's eyes glimmered with a mix of resolve and weariness. I don't have to fix it all. I only have to make the right decisions where it counts. That's enough. That's what humans do. One choice at a time. One world at a time. And somewhere deep inside, he knew the galaxy was watching, waiting to see if humanity's courage could survive among gods, monsters, and machines. Because Elias Grant was no ordinary student. He was a spark in the darkness, a reminder that even in a galaxy filled with beings of unimaginable power, a single human could make a difference, and sometimes, that difference could change the fate of entire worlds. The council had issued its challenge, and Elias, calm but unyielding, was already preparing for war. Not the war of weapons, but the war of choice, responsibility, and the human spirit. The Wraen sector sprawled like a shattered jewel across the void, clusters of planets, mining outposts, and pirate strongholds suspended in silence. From orbit, the chaos seemed almost beautiful. Swirling dust storms, gleaming cities, fractured moons reflecting distant suns. Elias Grant stood on the bridge of the Starforge, a hybrid command ship assigned by the Council, flanked by Lyra and a squad of the galaxy's most elite cadets. His fingers rested lightly on the console, not because he needed to manipulate the ship, but because he needed to see, to feel the battlefield before it even erupted. This sector is a powder keg, muttered Lyra, scanning psychic signatures. Pirates, rebels, starving colonies. Any small spark could ignite a war. Elias's eyes narrowed. Then we're not looking for sparks. We're creating bridges. Or the Council's directive was clear. Neutralize the pirate threat. Stabilize the colonies, protect civilians, and avoid unnecessary destruction. Simple words, impossible execution. The first encounter came quickly. Sensors picked up a pirate fleet massing near Wraen Prime, a mineral-rich world whose population depended entirely on outside shipments. The pirates intended to blockade the planet, starving its people into submission. Elias, said Captain Vera through comms, do you want us to engage them directly? He shook his head. No, direct engagement will cost lives. We'll do this differently. Elias ordered the fleet into a tight formation, then sent Lyra forward in a small unarmed shuttle, broadcasting messages in every major dialect of the sector. Pirates of Wraen Prime, her voice echoed through comms. Your positions are known. Stand down and no one will be harmed. Resist, and you will face consequences. The choice is yours. The aliens laughed at first. The idea that humans would negotiate with pirates was absurd. Then the first shots rang out. A warning from Wraen's orbital defense systems. Elias acted swiftly. He maneuvered the Starforge into orbit between the planet and the pirate fleet. Using precise calculations, he activated the ship's gravitational field projectors, creating a temporary, invisible barrier that funneled the pirate ships into a controlled corridor. The pirates, confused and off balance, collided with one another, unable to attack Wraen. Panic spread through their fleet. Lyra's psychic reach extended, amplifying his movements. Together, human and alien formed a single, lethal strategy, a dance of mind and motion. By the time the Council's observers arrived via comfeed, the pirates had surrendered, not a single civilian harmed, not a single world scarred. The next challenge was harder. Wraen Outpost, a mining station caught in the middle of a famine and rebellion, teetered on the brink of collapse. Supplies were dwindling, and the local population was ready to revolt against both pirates and Council enforcers. Elias descended personally with Lyra and a small strike team. Unlike the Wraen belt, this mission was political, not martial. Words were weapons, persuasion was armor. He walked through the crowded streets unarmed, speaking calmly, clearly. He did not raise his voice, did not issue threats. He simply listened. Children tugged at his sleeves, mothers watched nervously, and soldiers waited for orders. Yet by the time he left the station, food distribution had been organized, rebels were integrated into local defense squads, and the council's emissaries had negotiated a fragile peace with the miners, all without a single shot fired. Lyra whispered as they reboarded the Starforge. I don't know how you do it. Fighting, negotiating, even when everything is against you, you inspire them. Elias allowed a small, tired smile. Humans are fragile, Lyra, but that fragility is why we endure. We know how to lose. We know how to stand up again, and the moment we refuse to quit, that's when we become unstoppable. The cadets who had doubted him in the gym now looked at him differently, not as an alien curiosity, not as a dangerous anomaly, but as a leader, a symbol of hope, a reminder that the human spirit was something no algorithm, no psychic power, and no advanced weaponry could fully measure. You're back in orbit. The Starforge transmitted a full report to the Council. The Lauren sector was stabilized. Pirates were neutralized, rebellions contained, and lives saved. Elias leaned back, letting the hum of the ship soothe him. He had proven his worth not through destruction, but through judgment, courage, and humanity. The darkness of deep space stretched endlessly before the Starforge. But this was no empty void. Sensors picked up a massive formation of alien warships converging from multiple directions, led by a coalition that had grown fearful of humanity's rise. Elias Grant stood at the bridge, calm as ever, yet his mind raced through calculations, strategies, contingencies. The Council had warned him that this mission could escalate, but he already knew it would. The galaxy was not ready for what a single human could become when pressed to the edge. Lyra hovered near him, psychic senses tingling. Elias, they're not just ships. They're expecting you to fail, to break. He gave a faint, quiet smile. Then let's show them why humans never do. The enemy fleet advanced with perfect coordination, assuming numbers alone would overwhelm. Plasma cannons arced through space like lightning, tearing at asteroids and leaving burning trails in the void. Elias issued no frantic orders. Instead, he moved deliberately, redirecting power to the Starforge's gravitational projectors, creating corridors of shifting force that forced the enemy into a chaotic ballet of collisions and stalled maneuvers. Lyra projected psychic nudges into the minds of nearby cadets, synchronizing their movements like a conductor guiding an orchestra. One by one, the enemy ships fell into his traps, not destroyed by brute force but outmaneuvered by intelligence, foresight, and courage. Still, the main flagship approached, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons designed to annihilate planets. Its captain, a towering alien warlord named Vorath, called through comms, his voice a growl that reverberated through the Starforge. Human, you have disrupted the balance. Surrender or witness extinction. Elias's gaze never wavered. I don't surrender. Not my crew, not my people, not the innocents who rely on me, and I certainly don't let fear dictate my actions. The dreadnought fired a massive plasma salvo. The Starforge's shield strained, glowing red, threatening to fail. Elias acted instantly. With precise timing, he used the gravitational projectors to bend the plasma's trajectory, directing it toward a floating asteroid belt. The rocks absorbed the energy, fragmenting into debris that slammed into Vorath's flagship, tearing away armor and engines. The alien fleet paused, stunned. None had expected a human to turn their most powerful weapons against themselves without firing a single shot. Elias's crew, inspired by his resolve, moved with unprecedented coordination. Alien cadets who had doubted him now followed every instinct, every decision trusting his judgment implicitly. One by one, the enemy fleet began to retreat, confusion spreading faster than fear. Vorath, realizing the battle was lost, transmitted one final warning. Humans are not meant to be in the stars. You will regret this, Elias didn't reply. He only watched the fleet disappear into the void. Once the threat had passed, Elias floated to the observation deck, staring at the stars. Lyra joined him, silent for a moment. You were incredible, she whispered, not just in combat, but in leadership, strategy, humanity itself. Elias shook his head slightly. I didn't do it alone. Humanity survives because we rely on each other, because we don't quit. Even when everything seems impossible, we keep moving forward. That's the power they don't understand. Lyra smiled softly, realizing the truth. Humans were fragile yet unbreakable. They could bleed, they could fall, and yet their resolve could tip the fate of entire worlds. Back at Archon Prime, the Council convened to discuss Elias's actions. The message was unanimous. Humans were no longer an anomaly. They were a force, unpredictable, dangerous, and yet extraordinary in their resilience. Elias returned to the academy quietly, not seeking accolades. But wherever he went, cadets whispered his name. Alien warriors, seasoned and experienced, studied his methods. The galaxy began to shift, slowly, subtly, aware that humans were no longer to be underestimated. In the quiet of the academy gym, Elias stood alone once more. The echoes of alien whispers from months past filled his mind. Amazement, fear, awe. He smiled faintly, remembering the gym where it all began. A young cadet approached him timidly. Sir, how do you do it? How do you keep going when everything is against you? Elias crouched to meet the cadet's gaze, calm, steady, determined. You don't stop. You don't surrender. You don't let fear decide your fate. That's all it takes to survive. And sometimes that's enough to change the galaxy. The cadet nodded, inspired, hope igniting in his eyes. Around them, alien pupils stopped and watched. And in that moment, a spark spread, humanity's spirit, burning brighter than any weapon, stronger than any fleet. Because one human had walked into their gym. And in doing so, he reminded the galaxy that strength wasn't just about power. It was about courage, choice, and refusing to quit. Elias Grant turned toward the window, staring into the endless stars. Somewhere out there, threats waited. Worlds in peril, conflicts brewing, darkness gathering, and he would be ready. Because humans, he knew, were nothing if not relentless. And the universe had just met the human storm.